Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the fifth edition of Beyond Status Quo. And as you all know, in our sessions, we always get eminent leaders from around the world who share their views on what's happening around the world and what are their perspectives. We have looked at, leaders from different countries who are taking care of trade chambers, chambers of commerce, leaders who are also running non-profits and philanthropy organizations. And we've also had people coming in from infrastructure and real estate industries who gave us an insight about how, the global macro trends are evolving and what we could expect in the future. Today we have got somebody who's extremely special in terms of the sheer number of things at scale. So I think that's a unique thing. A lot of people do initiatives, multiple number of initiatives, but they tend to not see the light of the day at the global scale. But the unique thing about our esteemed guest today is the kind of things he has been able to do at a global scale, which really sets him apart. And we're extremely privileged to have him with us today. Uh, for all of your background, our esteemed guest, Mr. Abdul Dewale Mohammed, he is a global strategic thinker, visionary. He's a marketing consultant. He's also an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. And he's a renowned public speaker, mentor, author, and publisher. So, I mean, you can imagine the kind of hats he wears. He's also wearing one right now. He's the founder and group executive president of the Africa Asia Scholars Global Network, AASGON, and he's also the founder and executive chairman of the Global South Economic Forum, GSEF. He's also the founder of Africa Arab Asia Pacific University Presidents. He's also signet. Hello, are you able to hear me, Bridget?
Yes, you now,
Yeah.
Karthik.
Yeah. So he's also the member of the UK Stakeholders for Sustainable Development, affiliate member of International Association of Universities, member European Alliance for Innovation, and a host of number of the other organizations. He was in 2012 appointed as strategic business and marketing consultant by the UN head office, New York-based World Energy Forum (WEF). He is also the founder of African Child Association, the African Children's Strategic Alliance, and the ACA Social Enterprise as a children's right advocate. And he is a well-known social entrepreneur and acknowledged by the UK government. In 2005, he also formed a multi-purpose social enterprise center in Westminster at the heart of London City. Protecting and promoting children's rights is very core to him, and it's a very dear subject to him. And he has done a lot of initiatives and has raised funding up to 15 million pounds for charity initiatives. And he's also given a lot of proposals and advice to the Office of Mayor of London and Office of the Deputy Prime Minister on how best to make London and UK in general a safer community and a more child-friendly community and society. So, with this, I'm going to, hand over to Sushma, my co-host, to give a warm welcome to our esteemed guest today, uh, Mr. Abdul Dewal Mohammed. I also have a small presentation about the initiative he does and his organization, and we will quickly run through in pictures, and you will see the kind of amazing work he has been doing in last 20 odd years in a quick slideshow.
A very warm welcome, Abdul, on Beyond Status Quo, and thank you so very much for taking out time and being with us. Just one question, Karthik. Will you be running the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, but we can just start the conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so Abdul, as Karthik mentioned, that you are attached to various organizations, international and national, and run your own ones too for South Asian and African community. So, just want to have a perspective as to what is your perspective about this whole situation. What do you think is the scope of business in future now?
Thank you very much. Let me first let me first congratulate the organizers of this event, the FGCR, and also at this point in time, we all know what is happening all over the world. So I want to use the opportunity to commiserate with all the families who have lost very dear ones, and we pray and hope that the Almighty will give them the fortitude to be able to at least bear this great loss. Now, on the COVID, before I start talking about what motivated me into this organization, on the COVID, I'm quite surprised that we fail to, we seems to act in a form as if we were never thinking before, as if we never had a future. If you look at 2012, that was 2018, the World Economic Forum that came up with about the fractured world. I think if it's a fractured world, and we're not even looking at that seriously, then it was, I would say, indirectly, although unfortunately for those that we've lost, that COVID seems to be a sort of awakening for us to know that and to appreciate the fact that life is important, time is important, and how valuable human beings are. Now, on the organization, 1955, precisely in Indonesia, there was a meeting which was held between Africa, I would specifically say the leader, the president of Ghana then, and also some Asian leaders came together in Bandung and felt there was need to look at issue of the both the political and economic independence of Africa and Asia. And but unfortunately, university, which is supposed to be able to promote the principles of Bandung, never did. So a lot of people never knew that years back there were efforts to bring Africans and Asians together. On this basis, we started on the 10-10-10, which was the 10th of October 2010. We started the area of, we initiated Africa Asia Scholars Global Network. And the process we know is not going to be easy because even in the diaspora, both in America, in Europe, you hardly find Asians and Africans relating with each other. So we knew it was a gigantic task we were after. But as based on maybe the logistics or as with the experience I've won and started over the years, our first event was at the Medway Universities here in Kent. And fortunately for us, we had the ambassador from Indonesia, which actually hosted the event in 1955, to write a four-page paper and also calling on government to work with us. So that was quite a big start, and we started that way. So we knew that we have to put all the weight we had into it, and that was in 2011 to mark the 40th anniversary of Africa Day at the Medway Universities. That was done. And precisely end of that same year, we were invited to work with about some few universities in Indonesia, where we co-organized a conference in 4 cities in Indonesia. And prior after that, I think 2012, January, I think I got an invitation to come back to Indonesia to see how we can help to develop what do you call it, to make to enhance a university who was planning on going into academic entrepreneurship. And this was Brawijaya University in Indonesia. And a month I think about that was when I was then invited by the World Energy Forum in New York to represent 10 countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, and also United Kingdom. And well, that got me to speak with the ambassador of United Arab Emirates here in London, and I requested that he has to call Prince Charles and every important person here, since I have now been asked to market the whole of Dubai. So, but however, it was successful because on the 19th of July, 2012, I was able to, at least my project was done at Burj Khalifa, and the United Arab Emirates, Dubai particularly raised millions for that project. Now, the issue that our concerns an organization is that most of us are always in a hurry. Most of us don't even know who we are. And when you don't know who you are, what do you expect? But then let's now, so the basis we knew was that finding that the structures that we have are not working. It's not stated by us. If you look at within United Nations, far back over years, United Nations 75 years this year. I mean, let's talk about it. What have they achieved? What has the UN achieved? 75 years. Look at the state that we are. And when the World Economic Forum in 2018 in Davos in Switzerland came up and said fractured world, believe you me, I was so happy about it. Even the Pope sent a message on the need to ensure that whatever decisions that come out of that conference would be able to relate to people who are the poverty people who are poor. I mean, larger mass of society who are quite very poor. And apart from that, one of the things I was very happy about the World Energy Forum, the World Economic Forum, was that for the first time in history, that was their 48th anniversary. For the first time in history, they had women to co-chair the whole event. I was very pleased with it because I'll tell you one thing, because our problem, things can be solved in this world if only our women are together. I always say it, and not only that, because after that event in Davos, and as a signatory to United Nations Global Compact, we ask ourselves, what are we going to do about this fractured world? Everybody agrees and believes that we're in a fractured world, which I think is worse than even COVID, And then what we had to do was to call a meeting at the United Nations. So the UN women will start with the UN women, and we had a proposal for the UN women. And that proposal, we believe, can help to start to, rebuild the bricks of the fractured world. And I think that's where we should be concerned. We've just sent our next report to United Nations, which was sent on the 20th of July, 20th of March this year. And there are recommendations we're giving to the UN Secretary General. We are going to work hard on it. And even within the UN, even the UN Secretary General agrees that we're in a fractured world. Everybody agrees on that. So there's no issue about that. So that's why I said the fractured world we are in is worse than COVID. COVID is just a reawakening our minds. And I'll tell you one of the things here. It's quite unfortunate that we have this bandwagon. Everybody is doing conferences, webinar. Ask, what is the outcome? What do you expect out of this? I remember in Siena, as a member of the International Institute of, National University, International Universities, where you have all the presidents of universities across the world. And we sat down in Siena, in Italy, and I look at all these, eminent scholars sitting down. And you know what I told them? I said, and nobody disputes what I said. I said, you are all academic tourists. And we all know, everybody is having or itching to go to conferences. But remember, see them on the street, everybody's about buying one thing or the other. So the aspect is the university, education has broken, and that's why we have a fractured world. Because education is broken, that's why you have a fractured world. And what needs to be done? A proposal has been sent, because I've always said one thing. If you cannot find an answer to a problem, don't criticize. As human beings, we are so much there to criticize without actually looking at solutions and seeing how we can solve those problems. And one of the things we forget is that the child is the father of man. When you forget to take care of a child, you are indirectly not caring about your own old age. And when you don't take care of a child, it's like planting a seed. If you don't take care of that seed, what do you expect? So unfortunately, the basis of what we are looking as an organization is that I believe at my age now, the world can't change. It can't, because there's so much problem in this world. But we can start to think about laying the foundation for change. That's what we're after. And to lay the foundation, it takes a while. 10 years now, we've been investing on the organization. We never made a penny into actually making an income to the organization. We've been investing, and we're not in a hurry. We believe that all we need to do is to get it right. And governments, the UN agrees, even the London School of Economics, that the structures we have are not working. These structures we have are not working. There's the investment into social infrastructure. These are required things that we need across the world, but they're not happening. Even the government is distancing from the people. The UN also said that. So why does the government have to distance from the people? The people have lacked trust within the government. The same way you find that the corporate bodies also have lack of trust with the universities. So there are a lot of things we look at, but if you look at the composition of the university, And that was why in 2015, we said, okay, since we're Africa, Asia Scholars Global, and though we're based here in the UK, and we also have office, in India there and other places, what we need to be looking at is how do we ensure that education can be changed? We have thousands of universities, so it's going to take us how long to achieve it? So we said we need to set up a structure, and that structure is what we call the Forum of Africa, Arab, Asia, Pacific University President. That is to bring all the university presidents across the global south together. Unfortunately, with the Arab Asian universities, that was a beautiful thing we got from there, which was we've always been inspired. In every time the programs, ideas will come out, we get inspirations from different associations, from institutions. As a member of the board of Asia Pacific Universities, I got a very, very laudable, I got very overwhelming support from the Asia Pacific universities. And then the Arab Asian University said, with the 300 universities we have, we will support this initiative. And we came along with it, what we call Purple Global Awards, which is the Pride of Africa, Arab, Asia Pacific University Leadership Global Award. So that through that, we can look at good practices. Now, that particular structure we set up, hopefully, as we're working on now, we'll send an invitation, we'll send a letter to Qatar Foundation, because we believe the Qatar Foundation, I was invited to one of their webinars just 3 days ago. We could see how they're molding the children. That's why it comes to level where investment should go more on children, on education for children. And one of the things, there's an adage that says children should concentrate more on education than their hobbies. Hobbies are the great gift.
So you rightly said.
So yes, go on.
No, I was just sorry to interject. I was saying that yes, you rightly said that we should not criticize unless we can give a solution to it, because there is no end to it. And you also mentioned about various. Can you hear me?
It's not very clear there. The audio is not very clear there.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Come again, please. The audio wasn't clear there.
No. So
yeah, I can hear you now.
Mentioned about various actions and various measures taken by different forums. It brings up a related question as to any particular measure that you would like to highlight, which has been taken by various associations who are working for the society to deal with the situation. Anything which is really close to your heart, and you would like to highlight that yes, this is the way forward.
Yeah, of course. We believe in partnership. You see, the UN gets a lot of things wrong, and this is part of what we put in what we document in front of the UN. Now, there was what do you call it? The Millennium Development Goals. There were 8 goals. Under that goals, they put partnership under it. Fantastic, that's great. But however, when in 2013 there was a meeting called, which they had the president of Indonesia, the president of Liberia, and also the prime minister of United Kingdom. And then, and they came together in Bali, and they agreed that renewed global partnership, and then with a people-centered policy. Fantastic. But what happened? In 2015, what did the UN came up with? 17 goals. 8 goals, we couldn't achieve as much. Now we come with 17 goals. And then again, partnership is under it. Partnership, because the world lacks nothing. The world lacks nothing. The problem we have is about trust. If we can trust each other and everybody brings in the areas of strength, we lack nothing at all. So the basis, back to your question, is that we have seen it's only 2 things that has to be done. One of them, you see, we've tried over the last few years to get government. But we've developed, with this COVID, it has allowed us to now re-strategize on how to deal with it. But whether you like it or not, you need government. But most importantly is that in areas where innovations or orientations are coming in, governments are never there when it comes to the communities. But how do you get the government now to work with? We've come up with to strategize our plans on how to still get done, because you cannot achieve without having government on your side. Because at the end of the day,
true,
the policies are shaped by government.
How will partnership work in MSME sector? Do you think they need to collaborate going forward, or you think they would be able to sustain over a period of time? It's just a matter of time. So how will this concept of partnership?
You see,
yeah,
I tell you two things. One of them, you see, without these two things, we're not going anywhere. At the moment now, my generation seems to be a failed generation. Let's not two ways about it. There are people within us, they've got great ideas,
Yeah.
they've done massive things within society, they've been in government, they've been in United Nations, but they've been frustrated out of the system. They've been frustrated out of the system. Our job is to look for them and resource them. But let me say exactly what we're talking about, how to rebuild the fractured world. What we have in mind, it's very easy, but it's going to take a while. And what is there is to review the rule of law, because there's so many injustices within the rule of law, and we all know it. One simple instance I can give to you, which you're working on with the ILO. On that basis, you now have the aspect of teachers are not being valued. So what do you expect from teachers and mentors? I remember we used to have career and guidance counseling. What was that for? That was an important tool within the system to help ensure that young people can be able to enhance their potentials. But what's career guidance and counseling? You hardly do that when even on the university level. So, and then thirdly, is that it takes a village to raise a child, not a family. So if you get these three things together, what we're trying to do, we've done the proposal has been there. All that is there. We have Ministry of Justice. We don't have the time to speak about that. I could have given you all the base on the breaking it down. But I've just mentioned about review the rule of law. Secondly, teachers of the highest pay. And when I sat with the UN Women, the UN Women Executive Director in New York, and I said, look, teachers have to be the highest paid in the world. And she was like, I said, it might not be possible, but in Germany, it's happening. When doctors and lawyers and judges were asking to be paid more than teachers, what the chancellor said? She said, what is the justification for me to pay you more than those who made you? So if we don't value teachers, what do you expect of children of tomorrow? Let's be very, very frank with ourselves. So teachers are the highest paid. And thirdly, is to make sure that every child is cared for by everybody.
Yeah.
One single child left behind is a big problem for everybody. So the issue there is those three has to be together. That is on that. Then it will now have to start reviewing the laws that are quite not appropriate. And then we look at ensuring that education starts from children. I always say one thing. The most advantaged children today are the children that like sports from kindergarten, because they have coaches right from childhood. They have coaches. Some of them become either in sports medicine, in boxing, in table tennis, wrestling, and the rest of it. What about the children that like sports? There's no coach for them. Why didn't we have someone to also mentor those children that also have different areas of potentials that they can raise? I've said it. Even when I was speaking to universities in Kent or University of Kent last year, same I've done in Dubai and India and some other places. I've always said it. Your hobby can be your great career. Hobbies, because why? Your hobby never stresses you. It's like a baby growing in the tummy. The idea goes to germinate every day, and because you love it, it doesn't stress you, and you perfect it as you go on. Every hobby can be turned into fortunes. And with this COVID, I've asked people, that's why I said, turn this lockdown to redemption. Every hobby can be turned into great fortunes because it never stresses you. And unfortunately, when you go to the burial ground, that's why you find massive losses, because people go there and die with all the great ideas they brought in this world without having making the use of it and use it to help humanity. Now, I've mentioned about this actual structure. The second one, which we've also been trying to do, is that any event you have, because at the moment now, whatever event you do, mention the conference, like university, they'll start conference. Even in the conference, the governments that are supposed to carry out the resolutions of those conferences are not there. So what conference are you doing? What's the purpose of your conference? Your conference, because I always said it, business is about solving problems. Business is about solving problems. And that's why I told the young people in universities, go out there in groups, go and interview, find out the problems out there. Like for instance, this COVID now, at this lockdown, what was the most important thing? It's about food. Now, I am saying, particularly, let's look at Africa and Asia. We have quite large arable lands around there. Let us encourage our young people to go into farming, agriculture.
Yeah.
And if we can do that,
Hmm.
we can get a lot of things out. Yeah, let me listen to you again, please. Go on.
Yeah. So one more thing, since you are giving lots of emphasis on education and the teachers, that they should be paid, of course, highest. I agree with you that yes, they have an important role to play in anybody's life, let be anybody. So we also discuss about the AI, and these days any conversation is not complete till the time we have discussed about artificial intelligence as it is the future. So what I want to know is how are you how are your associated organizations using AI to deal with the situation at hand and for future recourse as well?
You see, like I said, COVID is, unfortunately, like I said, unfortunately, the people that we've lost. COVID, it's a reawakening point for human beings. We're not even talking about what happens about when artificial intelligence and the fourth industrial revolution really cracks in. How many people are going to lose their jobs? If you can't think, then robots will take over your job and you'll be jobless. Because we're not creative as people. It's only when you have problems that people start thinking. But when they have a normal life, everybody gets up every morning without even thinking. And that's why I called earlier, I said, people should start doing SWOT analysis on themselves. You need to look more at your strength and how you can build up your strength. I have said it, that the point is, we need to understand one basic fact. We're all here for a purpose. Everybody is here for a purpose. And the greatest thing you can do is to lend a hand to someone. If you look at the North-South divide, and with the artificial intelligence and what do you call it, artificial intelligence and the fourth industrial revolution, we have tried. I was with IIT Delhi. This was part of what we're trying to do in terms of partnership with IIT Delhi. I've been to some other colleges in India because we're very proud of India. Because when it comes to technology, you can't play with India on that. And I believe that Africa can benefit a lot from India, because America, most of the people in Google and the rest of InfoSys or whatever, it's all India. And on that level, we believe that technology is the in thing. But you have to not only technology, but you have to be creative. So the structure of the university, even before I go to that, there's some problem in the world about the structure of the university. I've said it many places, many times over the years. The composition of universities needs to change. The lecturers, you have to 15% of our lecturers are the very creative ones. Then, but those 15% are exploiting the university. Why did I say exploit? Because they become consultants to United Nations, to intergovernmental organizations, and to government. But they sit inside the university as their office. Now you have another 15% of other lecturers who admire, and they want to also have the opportunity to get the links that those 15% have. So that's 30% of creative people within the university. I can tell you, look at statistics or whatever, not less than 50% of our lecturers are only waiting for their retirement. So what do you expect? That kind of young people they can bring up?
Abdul, I'm sure people.
So what we're saying is that we're not saying those 50% should be retired, but what we should be doing is to now ensure that those 15% should not be allowed to work outside the university. But the university must give them everything that they need so that they can concentrate on building those young people to become great, vibrant young people, to become great potentials to the world. So we really have to restructure a lot of things. So that's why I said COVID could be an opportunity for everybody to sit down and start looking at what is the best way to address things. And you don't expect it has to be a fire brigade attitude or system. You have to really plan and restructure and plan yourself. We're talking about restructuring. A lot of people are losing their jobs. Even look at the airlines now. I like this morning about saying the airlines in the next, by July, will be running about 50%. It's impossible because there's a lot of demographic that you have to look at in terms of how the airlines alone can function. If it's not that too expensive, then it's going to be a luxury for people to travel, because how can you afford it? Because they need. So There are so many issues that you have to look at, which relates to every other businesses. A lot of people don't even have to go to work. They have to work from home because it's conducive. They've seen it is more economical to work from home at the same time that they can still. So there are a lot of restructuring going on. But joining the bandwagon, doing everything that everybody's just doing, I think we need to sit back, because before COVID, we're already a fractured society. And so why are we fractured?
So, Abdul, I'm sure people would like to hear you more, and our audience also have many questions. So, I'll just hand over the control to Karthik to take up questions from the audience. Over to you, Karthik.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sushma.
Sushma, and thanks, Abdul. I almost had goosebumps hearing you at times. You are really inspiring, and I am really
Thank you.
motivated to hear your thoughts and ideas. I'm just gonna consolidate some of the questions I keep getting from the audience while they were hearing you speak. I think one, so you've got a lot of people representing the education community, and I think you have had very strong opinions on how education is being currently delivered and how teachers and professors have to evolve. We've got Sachin, whom you spoke to earlier. He runs a school. We've got Danish with us, who was also a speaker in one of the earlier sessions, and he advises on schools in the Middle East and Saudi. And many of them want to know that how in the current scheme of affairs, where everything is going to become online, and you talked about how AI and these kind of technologies are there. So as a student or as a learner, I've got all the resources available online, right? And with technology, I can actually consume it in the way I want to, at a pace I like, and in the format I choose to. So how do you see the role and relevance of teacher evolving in such a situation in the mid to longer term in the future? Do you see teacher being that sort of a revered sage on the stage, or they'll become more like coaches, like you mentioned in sports you have? Will they become more like a coach to sort of as a bouncing board while the learner takes the entire control of learning? And when I say learning, it's both formal education plus vocational skills as well.
Oh, thank you for that question. I think first that when we talk, there are some that would say I'm a researcher. Some are just probably just to teach. But the basis is that, let me give you an example where we have had most of the advisors to ministers in government, the professors in university. They've never been able to work. Like the example, trade, policies on trade. You get advisors who are there from the university who have never traded before, who have never done real business before. So in that process, how do you then get better policy that can help promote trade? I will say it. If you're going to have to be a teacher, a lecturer, what is the purpose of teaching people? It's to ensure that those people can come out of university or come out of colleges and become better people in society. So if you don't understand the society itself, so what education are you giving to them? So most of our young people come out and they come into a different world. So you see, a lot of things has to be looked at for us to perfect how we do things. So the best aspect is that even when we talk about online coaching, online, the rest of it, imagine, let's give it some countries, even in India or particularly Africa. Where is the data? Most of them, some of them don't have opportunities of having internet. And let's even look at that away from the fact that whether some cannot afford, or is the aspect that if you're looking at how the format of education, and we set exams for every child, I mean, that is totally wrong, because children are different. So when you take every child to be on the same format, then already you failed quite about 25% or 40% of that class of children. Because we don't think, we are the problems. And like I said, if we don't take care of those children, we are indirectly not taking care of our own old age. So we have this bandwagon, and it's a matter of, like we said, let's look for people who are doing good things that can help develop society and bring them together and resource them. So there's a lot of things, it's not something we are looking for Even UN also said it. There are so many big organizations who have been running with UN, United Nations, getting billions of funding, but where are we? What the UN should have been doing, or organizations like us should be doing, is to looking for organizations, no matter how small they are, but that they have good programs, they have good track records, and help them to be able to nurture those ideas. But we don't do that. So there are a lot of things we need to look at. It's not a one-way forward of asking a question and then that's the direct answer. No, there are many things along with it that can help solve problems.
Yeah, and interesting you mentioned about UN and SDGs and how from MDGs to SDGs the evolution happened without actually solving the MDGs itself. So there are two schools of thought. I mean, there is a set of people who say that SDG cannot be realistically achieved by 2030, and it will be a sham, and they'll come up and meet again and create 20 new goals. But there's also an alternative school of thought, and I keep meeting a lot of people, inspiring people like yourself, and they said that there is a case in point of using technologies like AI and IoT, and there is a possibility to leapfrog the evolutionary. We always think of achieving this goal in a linear manner, but they believe that it's possible to leapfrog and actually achieve some of these goals in a much more non-linear manner while using these technologies. Do you see that being a possibility, or it's a wild thought?
I think there are possibilities. You see, I've said it before. When there are problems, then you see human beings coming up with great ideas, and in that process, some of them work. In years back, look at the villages, rural areas. At the time, we used to have a telephone. This telephone wasn't on before. We used to have these big boxes for our telephone, right? All of a sudden, it changed to that. And then people in the village, they never even saw those big boxes, but today they are using this. So you see the advancement. So as we move on now, when robots start taking over, delivering your pizzas, when you have driverless cars, taking you wherever you want to travel to, and aircrafts are already there. So the point that when you start having that, the human being will start creating things. But the moment we start looking at education curriculum structures towards that, and I'm very impressed about Jack Ma. If you look at some of the words that Jack Ma of Alibaba had said, I'm very impressed, and you can see how much funding they've invested into technology, because we need technology. We need technology, but we have to be very creative as human beings to do things that robots cannot do. So that's why we say we have to go to educational system.
But there is also a counterpoint that while technology can help, like the way you mentioned, some people say that people who are from marginalized communities or people who do not have access to, let's say, even devices. I mean, we talk about devices and data being very cheap, but let's not forget. I mean, large population of people in India and Africa, for that matter, do not have access to even devices till now, or they haven't used internet the way we think about it. So how do you see it in an inclusive manner?
No, I've already said to you, even go away from there. We all know that it's not possible that Africa, even this COVID, you can't expect some countries, even some president of, I think, is it Ethiopia, asking that they have to now cut off the debts of Africa. And I agree with him. But how they use those debts, that's another issue. But it's still, let them cut off the debts after this COVID. And we support that. Now, what I'm going off from is the fact that already it's agreed that there is no light, even electricity is not there. So some people should be thinking now, how can we make computers that will require batteries and not electricity? If you can do that, I tell you, that would be great. Some people should be thinking now, how can we make computers that will work on batteries as against electricity? If you can do that, then it will help a lot of communities that have no lights. That is one. And not only that, like I said before, it's not everybody that will be able to do better online teaching. It's not everybody that will say, be able to use computers. There are a large number of people who don't have the access like few other have. And you see, one of the things I said is that one of the greatest problems we have on this world, on Earth, when you only have about 3-4 universities, Harvard University, Cambridge, and Oxford. Hello?
Yeah, we
Hello?
can hear you. Abdul. Yes, we are there.
Yeah, I come back again. When you have only 3-4 universities producing the leaders of the world,
Right.
just 3-4 universities, Oxford, Cambridge, and Harvard University. So what do you expect
Yeah.
for the larger society? If this COVID has not affected the rich people, the novo rich, do you think
Right.
we'll have the same problem we have? Because every day, thousands of people are dying.
Yeah.
But we never cared about it. But the fact that it affects the rich, novo rich, now the governments are coming together and bringing up billions. And look at the banks. So there are a lot of issues that has to be addressed. And it's just because the education we give to people without morals, without values, this is a part of the process that we have.
I think we have
Right.
questions.
We have one question from Mr. Danish. Danish, are you there? So he advises schools in Middle East and Saudi. Abdul.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr.
Hello,
Abdul.
Danish, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
How are you?
Ramadan
Alaikum
Kareem.
salam. Oh, same to you. Thank you.
Yeah. One question I have is, I mean, fine, all these things look good when you're talking about United Nations and all these kind of things. I think the entire world has admitted or has come to realize that United Nations is nothing but a debating club of the elites, and nothing has ever been sorted out. So in this situation of the pandemic, do you think that there would be any process or a thought process that could possibly change of the powers that be? Because now I think even though we are all disconnected, confined to our houses, we are all connected in some way or the other.
Well, first is that it's not about the UN, it's not about the government. Who is government? Who is the UN? It's you and me. But we fail to understand our responsibilities. So when we don't understand our own, then you don't blame anybody. We need the UN. But what do you realize that the UN is funded by governments? And so therefore, sometimes it's very difficult for UN to go against those that feed them. But what we need to start looking at is what is the best way to ensure that the UN can be able to perform. Like we have the 75th anniversary of the UN this year, unfortunately with the COVID now, is supposed to be able to reassess. There are a lot of people, even in the UN, when you're coming about this new Sustainable Development Goals, it has been said, even by one of the co-chair of the working group of the UN, that there's no foundation. There's what we talk about public-private partnership. It's not working. So there are very good policies that sometimes come out within the UN, but at the end of the day, it does not transcend to the whole society. So what is there is that, let me give an example in Africa, or maybe also we look at developing countries. I have said it to university students, because you see, oh my God, fellow panelists, one of the greatest problems we have, when I was talking to students across in India, which I think about 4 or 5 universities and colleges last year, and then here in Kent and also in the UK and also in Dewale, all the children are not interested in politics. You see, because when you want to solve it, I'm not the kind of, when a wall is cracking, when we say we have a fractured wall, I believe that first of all, you have to rebuild, not to start saying to stand. So it's not a matter of just scratching left and right. It's for us to go deep down and start to rebuild. And if we don't do that, then we're going to have a problem. So when all the students are not interested in politics, and I told them, I said, look, and you're telling me you're educated, you're in school, and you're telling me not to in politics. Because at the end of the day, those you think are not important, they are going to dictate your life and your family for you. So when our children, I said, look, you don't have to be an MP. You don't have to be a senator. All you have to do is to set up organizations calling for correctness in governance. That's what organization is about, good governance. That's what we're after. And we want to see good practices. At the same time, we look at unlocking the wealth of universities. And when we talk about to help develop human capital development, because there's so much gifts in human beings, but unfortunately, they need someone to be able to incentivize them, give them initiative, and assist them to be able to achieve. But we, society, is not helping people to achieve that. That is where the problems are. And the society itself does not realize that one day, I mean, I always say one thing, you come to this world with nothing, you go with nothing. Everybody knows that. But why are we drunk with our supplies?
Yeah.
What's wrong with us?
No, it's a very thought-provoking
Look at COVID
idea.
now, people. Pardon?
No, I'm saying it's a very thought-provoking idea. You know, in fact, many of us take it for granted that government will do stuff for us, but government is as you rightly said, it's you and me. I mean, if
You are
you
government.
cannot take action, yeah, that's a very, very
What are the
powerful.
morals? What are the morals? What are the morals? What are the values about life? We don't. Nobody knows about that. So, what education are you getting?
No, that's a very, very strong point, and I'm sure many of our audience member, I'm sure all of you are also ignited in your thought process, like I am.
Sorry if I cut in place. What I want is for us to achieve here. Let's all go into our shell and do a SWOT analysis on ourselves and find out where our strengths are. And then you look at other people, look at their strength and see those you think you can work together with for you to move up. And give example, when you say everybody come to university and say they want to look for a job, who's going to create the job? But secondly, too, is that when you say go and volunteer somewhere, it's not about it being given a free service. You're going to take a big learning. And if you do a volunteer with the kind of idea or knowledge or interest you have, it's going to help to propel your position in life. But people don't want to invest time. By the end of the day, you lose.
And I think, Mr. Abdul, only self-governance can protect us and the world.
Only what?
Self-governance. Self-governance.
Self-governance.
Yeah. Not the governance from, not the governance.
Remember that every 4 years or 5 years, some people are going to come and knock your door and say, vote for us. Come again?
Self-governance from ourselves, not on the basis of any institute or body. We should not depend upon the good governance of any institute or body. We should govern ourselves first.
No, I'm sorry. You need good governance. You need people together. You can't do things alone. We all need each other. We all need each other. And based on this, we have to build trust. We need to build trust.
But the answer of Mr. Danish's question is still not come about what the UN is doing. Is the UN is doing the thing in a right way? Is the governance is good over there? Are the people getting benefited or not?
No, you need to. I did answer it. I did answer him. And what I've said there is that you need the UN. You need a body. You need an organization. You need regulations. Because we're all different people. So the UN is there. There are good ideas. I've already mentioned about issue of people-centered policies. It came out of the UN. People say public-private partnership. It came out of the UN. But the issue there is that are they being practiced in real sense? No. Because we're living in an uneven world. So the most important thing is we need to work together. There's no two ways about it. We lack nothing in this world. And the more we work together, the better for every society. So there are a lot of issues, but like I said, we already have the idea. I've already said we have how this world can change. I've already presented it. We're working on it. I've said it. We need to review the rule of law. Because of time, I'll give you one simple one, which is very important. People go to university and they come to university with big debts. Agreed?
Yep.
And then when they come out of university, they have to go for 15 interviews before they get a job. When they get that job, every time they go for an interview, they have to borrow more money to look good. And when they get the job, they have to work for 30 days before they get paid. For God's sake, that is slavery. And one of the things we forget is if you give 15%, because at the end of the day, before you choose that person to work for you, it means there's something inside that person. Giving 15% or 10% of his salary, that's an incentive. At the end of the day, there'll be more products. So your company will be more productive. Well, we don't like, so that has to change. And we're going to try and work with ILO. And we're looking at probably some of our, I have a very good friend here in London, Saros. He started the first legal firm Asian legal firm in the UK. And I'm looking at the possibility or any other law firms, we can work together, get the ILO on the side, get the World Bank on that side, and show that at least if the person gets a job, it must be given 10-15%, because it's going to help some people to reduce the number of debts that they have. Because some people live in perpetual debt all their life for the system. That's just one out of the what do you call it, the point we have within the rule of law.
Right. No, that's a very, very powerful point, Abdul. And unfortunately, now we are out of time. So sorry, we couldn't be taking more questions from the audience. But I have noted the questions and I'll pass it on to Mr. Abdul for his consideration. And, I'm sure he'll be kind enough to respond to some of them and we'll get back to you over email. With this, we come to the end of this session. For me personally, it's been very inspiring because of two reasons that I'm able to now think in a much, to be honest, in a bigger picture manner, because we are also busy in our own personal lives and our own businesses and line of work. Sometimes we miss out on the.
Can I come if you don't mind?
Yes. Yes.
Can I come in 1 second? Can I come in for
Please,
a second?
Yes.
On the African Asian Scholars Global Network and the Global South Economic Forum, people that believe they have great ideas, we want to form a global think tank. People that have great ideas on how we can solve this problem, because the more we are together, the better. We don't lack funding, I can tell you that. Because there are some very good corporate organizations out there looking for good ideas. I've said it. Business is about solving problems. So whoever have great ideas on how we can change things around, please get in touch with the organization, FGCR, and get in touch with African Asian Scholars and Global South Network, and we can start fixing things for not only our own future, but the future of the new generations coming. Thank you.
Wow, that's a very it's a clarion call from Abdul that whoever really believes that they have ideas to change the world, don't keep it to yourself in your heart and within your family cocktail conversations. It's time to come out in the open and share with him, and we'll be more than happy to connect you with Abdul to take these ideas forward. With this, thank you once again, Abdul. We are really thankful for you for taking out time and spending time with our audience. Thank you everyone who joined in, and we look forward to seeing you in the next session over the weekend. Thanks again. Stay safe. Stay at home. See you next week.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Abdul. Thank you so very much.
Keep safe.